Hello friends, welcome to Akul Mic Live. My name is Chandrakant. Today we will discuss about Mahatma Gandhi. You remember in 1922 there was a sedition case on Mahatma Gandhi, which was basically charged by the British government of the day. And in this particular case, Mahatma Gandhi said, I am guilty because he said, I'm an Indian, I love my country, and I will talk for Indians. So, if you think this is against your laws, please come and charge me. And he actually pleaded guilty. And he also gave a very powerful speech during his trial. So, to discuss this matter further, I have a very distinguished guest in the studio. We will start our discussion after a short break. Don't go anywhere, as an outstanding show coming up right now. Welcome back, friends. And in today's session of the legal matters, we will be discussing something very, very interesting and something which has happened and related to Mahatma Gandhi. And to discuss this further, I have my friend joining from Ahmedabad, Mr. Jeet Bhatt. Welcome to the show, Jeet.
Thank you, Chandrakant, for having me on this show, Legal Matters. And yes, today we are going to discuss a very important part of history, the modern history in India, when Gandhiji was tried by the Britishers under the offense of sedition, and when Gandhi had put the entire colonial system on trial after being charged of this offense. And so it's absolutely interesting and very important event that took place in history, and is also a lesson that why sedition, which Mahatma Gandhi preferred as the prince of the Indian Penal Code for subjugating the liberties of the citizens of this country, should have been done away with.
Well, I think this is quite interesting subject because sedition is still being used and the same law continues. And so what really happened and which year was this and what are the background of this case? We would like to know more about it.
Yes, Chandrakant, absolutely. In fact, there is a brief history because Gandhi ji had come to India after a brief stint in South Africa, where also he was involved in the freedom movement. But thereafter, in India, he completely devoted his time for the independence movement. Initially, though he says that he was cooperating with the Britishers and wanted to gain independence, but thereafter, due to certain events, which he mentions is that the Rowlatt Bill, which was placed in 1919, due to which the Jallianwala Bagh incident happened because there was a protest, and Gandhiji himself had protested by non-cooperation movement from 1919 to 1922, and that event led to Jallianwala Bagh assassination, and also certain other events which he talks about in his speech given in a statement given before the Ahmedabad District and Sessions Court. But he wrote three articles in a Young India magazine on 29th September, 15th December of 1921, and the third on February 23 of 1922. And the title of these articles was Tempering with Loyalty. The second one was The Puzzle and Its Solution. And the third was Shaking the Mains. Now, in his article titled Tempering with Loyalty in 1921, he noted that I shall not hesitate at the peril of being shot to ask the Indian sepoy individually to leave his service and become a weaver. For has not the sepoy been used to hold India under subjection? Has he not been used to murder innocent people at Jallianwala Bagh? Has he not been used to subjugate the proud Arab of Mesopotamia? The sepoy has been used more often as a hired assassin than as a soldier defending the liberty of the weak and the helpless. So this was the first article, Tempering with Loyalty, wherein he says the sepoy must leave his service and become a weaver. So this is showing disaffection towards the British government established by law in India. In the second article, he says that sedition has become the creed of the Congress. Every non-cooperator is pledged to preach disaffection towards the government established by law. Non-cooperation through a religious and strictly moral movement deliberately aims at the overthrow of the government and is therefore legally seditious in terms of the Indian Penal Code. In the third article, he says that we are challenging the might of this government because we consider its activity to be wholly evil. We want to overthrow the government. We want to compel its submission to the people's will. We desire to show that the government exists to serve the people, not the people the government. Free life under the government has become intolerable, for the price exacted for the retention of freedom is unconscionably great. Whether we are one or many, we must refuse to purchase freedom at the cost of our self-respect to our cherished convictions. So certainly through these articles, he wanted the overthrow of the British government because he had developed such disaffection towards the entire system of governance established by the British in India. So the British in retaliation had responded by framing a charge of sedition under section 124A of the Indian Penal Code against Mahatma Gandhi. Now, because of this offense, he was arrested on 10th of March 1922. And on 18th of March 1922, he was brought before the district and sessions judge in Ahmedabad, wherein his trial was to begin. Now, normally in every trial, we see that the accused do not plead guilty and they want a trial. But in this case, Gandhiji was asked whether you plead guilty or not. Gandhiji said that I plead guilty to all the charges. In fact, he was also tried with one Mr. Banker, who was the publisher of this magazine, Young India. And he was also charged with the same offense. And he also said that I also plead guilty. Now, the judge immediately wanted to hand over the sentence, but the Advocate General, Mr. Strangman, said that the procedure must be followed. And that was a great statement made by the opponent when he says that the procedure must be followed because he wanted the procedure to be fair. And he wanted the accused should also be given a fair trial. So on basis of his request, he was heard and he made his submission. And thereafter, the judge asked Mahatma Gandhiji whether he wanted to make any statement. Because on the basis of his pleading guilty, he was going to pass a sentence of imprisonment. So the court asked him whether you want to make a statement on your sentence. Now to this, Mahatma Gandhiji made a wonderful speech in the Sessions Court at Ahmedabad. And he submitted that how from the starting, being a cooperator to the British system, how he developed disaffection to the entire system and how he was completely, he did not want the British to continue and he wanted independence for the country. Now he says in his speech, when he says that he took responsibility of the entire charge which was framed against him, and he also said that he also took responsibility of the violent attacks which had happened after his speech. He said that I wanted to avoid violence. As non-violence is the first article of my faith, it is also the last article of my creed. But I had to make my choice. I had either to submit to a system which I considered had done an irreparable harm to my country, or incur the risk of the mad fury of my people bursting forth when they understood the truth from my lips. So he said that I do not ask for mercy. I do not plead any extenuating act. I am here therefore to invite and cheerfully submit to the highest penalty that can be inflicted upon me for what in law is a deliberate crime and what appears to be the highest duty of a citizen. Because he said that freedom of speech and expression is not just a right, but is also a duty to speak your mind against the violence committed by the government. So therefore he said it is my duty, and I owe it perhaps to the Indian public and to the public in England to placate which this prosecution is mainly taken up, that I should explain why from a staunch loyalist and cooperator, I have become an uncompromising disaffectionist and non-cooperator. To the court too, I should say when I plead guilty to the charge of promoting disaffection towards the government established by law in India. So then he starts describing his journey from South Africa and thereafter what the events happened later. And then he says that because of the events in Jallianwala Bagh and the Rowlatt Act, that he became, and also the events that happened with regards to the Muslims in India, that he had lost all hope on the British government. And therefore, he further says that I came reluctantly to the conclusion that the British connection had made India more helpless than she ever was before, politically and economically. A disarmed India has no power of resistance against any aggressor if she wanted to engage in an armed conflict with him. So much is this the case that some of our best men consider that India must take generations before she can achieve dominion status. So, in light of this, he said that before the British advent, India was weaving and spinning cottages, and there was growing industry, and it was a very considered as a very developed nation. But it is because of this British imperialism of 200 odd years that India had the people in India had come to such a state of penury that there was no life in them. So then he says that no sophistry, no jugglery in figures can explain away the evidence that the skeletons in many villages present to the naked eye. I have no doubt whatsoever that both England and the town dweller of India will have to answer if there is a God above for this crime against humanity, which is perhaps unequaled in history. The law itself in this country has been used to serve the foreign exploiter. My unbiased examination of the Punjab martial law cases has led me to believe that at least 95% of convictions were wholly bad. My experience of political cases in India leads me to the conclusion that in 9 out of every 10, the condemned men were totally innocent. Their crime consisted in the love of their country. In 99 cases out of 100, justice has been denied to Indians as against Europeans in the courts of India. This is not an exaggerated picture. It is the experience of almost every Indian who has had anything to do with such cases. So he says that this is how this system was used against the citizens of India. And the government, which is for the people, was using the people to enrich itself. So therefore, with regards to these all facts, he says that I have come to such a conclusion that there is complete disaffection against the government and the system, and therefore I should be allowed to express my voice. With regards to this offense of sedition, he says that section 124A, under which I am happily charged, is perhaps the prince amongst the political sections of the Indian Penal Code designed to suppress the liberty of the citizens. Affection cannot be manufactured or regulated by law. If one has no affection for a person or system, one should be free to give the fullest expression to his disaffection, so long as he does not contemplate, promote, or incite to violence. But the section under which Mr. Banker and I are charged is one under which mere promotion of disaffection is a crime. I have studied some of the cases tried under it. I know that some of the most loved of India's patriots have been convicted under it. I consider it as a privilege, therefore, to be charged under that section. I have endeavored to give in their briefest outline the reasons for my disaffection, and I have no personal ill will against any single administrator. Much less can I have any disaffection towards the king's person. But I hold it to be a virtue to be disaffected towards a government which in its totality has done more harm to India than any previous system. And India is less manly under the British rule than she was ever before. Holding such a belief, I consider it to be a sin to have affection for the system. And it has been a precious privilege for me to be able to write what I have in the various articles tendered in evidence against me. In fact, I believe that I have rendered a service to India and England by showing in non-cooperation the way out of the unnatural state in which both are living. So this is how he says that this is why I have come to the conclusion that I have complete disaffection towards the government, and it is my duty to write what he has written. So this is his statement, and ultimately based on his own admission, the court passes a sentence of 6 years of imprisonment. But Justice Broomfield, who had written the judgment, in his last para, quotes that the law is no respecter of persons. Nevertheless, it would be impossible to ignore the fact that you are a different category from any person I have ever tried or am likely to have to try. It would be impossible to ignore the fact that in the eyes of millions of your countrymen, you are a great patriot and a great leader. It is my duty to judge you as a man subject to the law, who by his own admission has broken the law and committed what to an ordinary man must appear to be a grave offense against the state. And I should like to say in doing so, that if in the course of events in India should make it possible for the government to reduce the period and release you, no one will be better pleased than I. So even while passing the sentence, he says that if the government remits the sentence, nobody would be happier than I would be. So this is how he showed the respect to the great man who was tried in his court. And he showed great respect because he said that you are a great man and no one has, I would be never trying a person like you. So therefore, the fairness, the respect that was shown to the accused and the respect that was shown by the Advocate General himself and the speech that was given by Mahatma Gandhi in this trial makes this trial one of the greatest trials in the modern history. And this trial also shows that how the entire system, that the colonial imperialism period and the British system that took away India's greatness was in fact, so therefore this was what was on trial, the entire colonial system and not Mr. Gandhi who was on trial. So therefore, this experience, this trial was a question of morality rather than the legal concepts of a trial. And he showed the world that how the British were trying to subjugate the citizens of this country. So this is a very important event that happened in Ahmedabad and is a very rich heritage which has to be preserved, and this story has to be told time and again. And we must never forget what has happened with the people of this country and how India has attained freedom. And also the fact that how sedition has been misused, was misused by the Britishers, and it should not happen to the Indian citizens after India getting independence and after the constitution coming into effect, giving the fundamental rights to the citizens of this country, which the people of this country never had before.
Well, Ji, this is very powerful message, and I don't want to ask you any question. I don't want to dilute whatever you told us today, because we are talking about the great soul Mahatma Gandhi. In fact, I read somewhere that who's the bravest soldier ever lived in the history of the world, and I was watching top 10, and number 1 was Mahatma Gandhi, because he was so brave. You know, you don't have to use any weapon to show your strength or anything, or use some technique like ninja and all that. It lies in the brain. So I think that was the bravest thing to do, what Mahatma Gandhi gave to India and to the world. So I think I don't want to ask you any question today. Thank you so much for coming into our show and explaining this about this very popular case. In fact, many of these things, I think everybody may be remembering it, but I think a refresher is always good. So thank you so much, Jeet.
Thank you very much, Chandrakant, for having me.
I will catch up with you next week, and I like to say goodbye and have a nice weekend.
Thank you, Chandrakant. Same to you.